on Sunday the 16th of November. Yeah, I've not been around much this weekend. Apologies, and as I did say, I would promise I would do a show when I got back this evening, a little bit later than I actually planned. But I did say that I would do a show, and being a man of my word, I will of course do a show, as I have missed you, wonderful people. So yeah, let's get into the show. First thing to start off and say really is that get into this amazing community. This is one of the best communities on this platform. Very, very lucky to have the community that I do. If I'm going to say get into the chat, be respectful to those people who are in the chat. Be respectful to me. Be respectful to yourselves. Otherwise, the ban hammer comes out. We don't like doing the ban hammer, but it does come out. Second of all, as I always say, I'm not a dictator of this chat. This is your show as much as it is mine, because I read out your chats. A lot of channels don't do that, but this is what we do on here. I will read out your chats because I respect your opinion. Scott is in the house. Yes, JB, legend of the chat, as always, is Scott, and one of the best moderators in town. To give Scott your respect and say hello to Scott. So, as I say, haven't been doing this on the weekend. I've been doing some other stuff, important stuff, just as important as this, of course, but you know, family comes first, and it's amazing to be back, and I do miss this, and I do miss an evening show. This is the Sunday night evening show. The evening show is a little bit different. I'll come in with some stuff. There is some news. There's some sort of news which we will go through as well. Don't know how long the show is going to be tonight. Probably not going to be as long as normal, because I'm absolutely knackered. Scott says 1 in and 1 out. Interesting. I think that will be the basis. I do think that Scott's right on that. I do think the basis will be 1 in, 1 out policy. The whole way through, I'm adamant on who's coming in, but we can go through some of the names. We can go through that tonight. I want to talk a little bit about Casemiro as well tonight. I've got a newfound respect for Casemiro. I still don't think Casemiro. Harry Potter 1012 says hello Harry Potter. I hope you're all doing extremely well, and I hope you're doing extremely well on this Sunday evening. Get into the chat. Give me your opinions on what you've seen out there. There is hello. He's the best midfielder in the Premier League, says Mr. Freeze. I wouldn't go that far, Mr. Freeze. I wouldn't go that far. But look, just because I'm of the opinion that, but Mr. Freeze, look, I get your opinion, my friend. And again, this is a show, and I don't disrespect your opinion. This is why I read your opinions out, because I respect it. Mark Face says Harry Potter was playing for Ireland today. I tell you what, that was a finish, wasn't it? I mean, look, that was a finish, wasn't it? I mean, look, congratulations to Ireland. You know, that last minute winner. I can't imagine what that feels. John O'Connor says good evening, buddy. Any takeover news? The only takeover news is what I brought the other day. Don't know whether you saw that. We can go through that if you missed the show. Why don't you shut up and you Switzerland? We say in a we don't say shut up and F you in Switzerland. Oh, okay. Interesting. Thank you for that. Obviously, I'm not going to read that out. Greetings from Turkey 334. I hope you're doing extremely well. Greetings from Essex in England. Hope you're doing extremely well. I am so excited to be back. So please, I think for Jan we should re-sign Cristiano on loan. He will score goals in the team. Mr. Freeze. No. So I'm going to get on to Casemiro first. Sorry, I'm from Switzerland. Don't need to apologise. I actually have a family member who lives in Switzerland, so they're from Zug, or they live in Zug. So yeah, I know Switzerland reasonably well. Give Troy Parrott his own statue. Look, big up to Ireland tonight. You are cool. Look, I wish I was cool, but thank you for saying it. I wish I was cool, but I've never been cool a day in my life, but I do appreciate it. So what I wanted to do, question for you, which is the best team in Turkey? 3-3-4. All I'm going to say on this one is that in the Turkish league, look, I know you guys are very, very passionate about your teams. I have no affiliation in terms of teams, no preference to teams, but I will say the teams that I know about, or the teams that come to mind, are Galatasaray, Fenerbahce, Trabzonspor. Those are the teams that come to mind. I don't know, but I'm going to bed now. Good night. Good night. Good night, my friend. Can you say the most British sentence possible? Oh, okay. What's the most British sentence possible? Nikarutsu, legend, absolute legend. Besiktas, of course. Nikarutsu is in the house. Evening, Nikarutsu. I hope you're doing extremely well. What's the most British sentence possible? What's the most British sentence possible? Probably something like I don't know. The most British sentence possible. Hello, are you standing there? John says, are we going to have a Christmas tree? Are we going to have a Christmas tree? Are you taking the mick? Are you going to have a Christmas tree and lights in your room? Do you know what? I might do. Do you know what? I might as well make it festive, right? John, I'm loving that, mate. I will make it festive. I'll get a Christmas tree up in here, get a Christmas tree up there, and we'll make it. Festive just for you. We have a star like Osman. You do. Osman is a fantastic play. She says, all right, geezer. What should be that is all right, geezer. But then of course you've got the northern. Yeah, I think all right, geezer. I think the sort of London accent is the sort of most synonymous, isn't it? But yeah, I think you're right, guys. Get in there tonight. This is the Sunday night show. Pretty chilled. I'll go through some stuff, and this is that sort of show. Is British, yes. Tally ho, chaps. So what I wanted to say first off is, look, Mark says, I thought we were beat, mate, but we still got a miracle matches for the playoff march. But today was historic for us, John. Everton on Monday next week, needing another 3 points. I'm big on John, mate. John, just for you, mate, I'll get a Christmas tree up. I promise you, I will get a Christmas tree up. My family in my house right now, my other half is massive on Christmas. I've literally had to stop her from putting up the Christmas tree. What I'll be the 16th. Yeah, just basically stopping her from the Christmas tunes are on. She's already put the Christmas tunes in my car. She's programmed my car for Christmas, hot Christmas, and every time I turn on the car, it's playing. So you're in good company here. So what I wanted to say first of all is, look, I am always the first to criticise players, or I'm always the first to give my opinion on players. Brazil played Senegal, Cunha played, Casemiro played. I saw some of the highlights, and Casemiro scored. Look, I'm always big up on our players that do well, and I just wanted to sort of bring this in because I think this is only fair. I think Casemiro this season. Whatever I still think of Casemiro, do I still think that Casemiro is the best midfielder in the Premier League? No. Do I think that he will? That he'd get into a top 4-5 team? No. But I have to give props to Casemiro. Look, I know it's a World Cup year, but look, Casemiro, respect to the guy. Look, he's using what he's got. You should get a United jumper for Christmas. Jumper, John, mate. I'm loving these ideas. I'm loving these ideas. He's a club legend. Has won 2 titles with us. Mr. Freeze, you're cracking me up. Look, if you think that Casemiro is a legend of this club, it's not for me to dissuade you. It's not for me. Frugal Boy, good day to you, JB. Good day to you, sir. I hope you're doing extremely well. Look, Mr. Freeze, I think people are entitled to think whoever's a legend of this club. It's up to you. Like it's your mind, it's your thoughts. I don't share the opinion. I will say this. I do have a respect for Casemiro. Look, I've always had a respect for what he's done in the past. This season, Steeler over Gallagher, says John. I agree with you, and we can get on to the midfield straight after this. But look, I've had respect for Casemiro, you know, what he's done in the Champions League. The fact that Casemiro this season, I wrote him off completely. I think he's doing the best he can. And the fact he's probably the best at what we've got in terms of the midfield, which I still think is sad. But look, big respect to him because ultimately he's doing a job. And the fact that he scored as well, probably going to go to the World Cup. What can I say? I equally talk about players when they're not doing well, and I think it's fair that we talk about players when we talk about players in the right way as well. So for me, big up to Casemiro. I'm glad he scored. Absolute legend. So well done to Casemiro. And may it continue. May it continue. And fingers crossed that he can continue that season. Look what happens when you play Bruno in the right position. It's got exactly. But and again, you know, I love seeing our players do well. If Bruno Fernandes, again, I've given him stick, more so for the captaincy rather than like how he's playing. But if you put these players in the right position, if you do that, you're going to get the most out of it. So, you know, Nicaricia says, Casemiro has another year in him. He's not fast, but he can hold up the play and score occasionally. The thing with Casemiro is, I think after the World Cup, I think he's going to drop off, right? I think he will. But I would keep Casemiro for another year based on this year, but also based on his wages would have to be lower. I don't want to keep Casemiro on 150, 200k. If Casemiro stay on reduced terms, look, for that, imagine Casemiro being here for another year. You get Stiller, like Anderson. Imagine what he can teach those players. You know, that's what I absolutely have no problem with older players being here, but it has to be on terms that suit everybody. So I really, really hope so. Mr. Fish, there's no reason why we can't re-sign McTominay. There are rumours going around, so we will get on to Gomez and we'll get on to the midfield as well, because there are some things that come out. So we will get on to all that as well. And then we'll get on to Munoz, and I've said what I need to say about Casemiro, and then we'll get on to the wing-back situation as well. So we'll get on to that. So I did actually see something that apparently there could be an option to re-sign Casemiro. How was your rabbit food? Says Grace. It was nice. So basically, I went away with the missus. Went to a spa. And it just so happened that on the wall, I posted a picture. There was a plaque up there where apparently we played and we stayed. And yeah, there's a little cool plaque. So that was quite cool. And yeah, so we had 3-course meal. That was nice. It was fig, blackberry, and like some sort of ham or something on top. It was good. It was good. Did they give you did they give you a kids menu? There were no kids. Our children were not there. Just nice and quiet, relaxed. It was nice. There was no kids in the restaurant. It was just nice and chilled. It was awesome. Nick Root says, I'm sure McTominay is going to ditch the great Italian food, the honeys, and the nice weather for England. Possibly. I think you've got a point. There is 48 teams in 2026 World Cup, and those European groups were ruthless. Who are FIFA going to do with letting 48 teams qualify? Yeah, I agree. We should sign Joe Cancelo as right back on loan, and Dalot can move to right wing back. He can move to another club, mate. He can move to another club. Look, I again, I'm not going to bash these players. I think these players have had enough. I think that when we now walking into, this week will come along, and then we're going to walk into the games. Yeah, I think he's had enough opportunities until we sign another wing back, or until look, he's going to get plenty of stick, right? There are other wing backs, which is a good segue into this. I think I'll do the wing back situation first, and then we'll move back onto the midfield. Joe Cancelo. Look, Joe Cancelo for me. He played for City. The fact that there is a gap now between the fact that he played for City, would I sign him? I don't know. Let's get Munoz. I really want Munoz. We don't need Munoz, enough said. Kobe in Belieber. Here we go, bully. No, Grace, I'm going to shut it down tonight. We're not going to bully him tonight. He gets enough. Jose said Dalot would be the best. Look, tonight we're not going to go in on players tonight. No, we're not going to go in on players tonight. We're going to give that. I'm personally going to give that a rest. Well, look, he needs replacing. Scott says Kobe out. New Zealand have a better chance of winning the Rugby World Cup than winning the football, than winning the World Cup. That's true. Kobe out, says Scott. Belabor in. So I've been a Belabor fan. JB bullying Dalot. What I miss. I am not going down that road tonight. He can speak for himself. Look, I hope he can turn it around. I am not getting on that bandwagon tonight. I think these players get enough criticism, particularly from me. But look, I'm not going to do that. So let's do that. So look, wing back situation. So Munoz of Crystal Palace. So there's an interview that I've seen. It's been going on for months. Just back the lad. Look, Grace. Look, there's nothing more than I want to back these players, right? I want to back them. But as I've always said, this is the team that finished 15th last season. He's part of that. The games we've seen this season, look, Grace, it's not. Look, when you're a club when you're trying to get back on top, and you've got players like that, and he's not the only player, by the way. You have to look at those players. He's not good enough for this club. He's here right now. He needs support. But if you look at his last couple of games, he's been awful. And that's not my fault. That's not your fault. That's not the club's fault. That's just him. He's not good enough. It's a fact, right? And look, people like players. He's not good enough. He needs to be replaced, but we can't replace him yet. So let's see how he goes. I don't back him because I don't think he's good enough. But I'm not going to criticise him because because he needs support. So what I will do, I'm not going to back him, but I will support him because I do think he needs that support, and I'm happy to support him. I'm just long term. I'm not going to back him. I think he does need to be replaced, but he's not good enough to play for this club, Grace. And Grace, I respect your opinion, but the Portuguese wing back is not good enough. So look, I can't get on that train. So Aaron Ship says, how about getting Greenwood back? Then say, look, Grace, as I've said many times before, there's not a single player in this squad that I would have a sleepless night over shipping out. There'd be one or two players that there'd be a couple of players that I'd keep, but I've got no players, no qualms with the players that I've seen with different clubs and with me supporting this club for the last 38 years. I've got no problem getting rid of these players. These players are not, I can't keep referring to the past, but if we are looking at players, there's not a single player that I would keep. Well, okay, so if I was going to keep players, the players that I would keep, and I will go back up to the Greenwood comment as well, because as I say, I do read your comments. De Ligt would be one that I would keep. Yoro would be one I would keep. Lemens would be one I would keep. I'd keep Shesko because we've just bought him. Mbumo I'd keep. I would keep Cunha. I would keep Ahmad. But anyone else, I wouldn't be bothered. Aaron says, what about getting Greenwood back? Look, we do get asked that on a couple of occasions. And I don't shy away from answering that question. I'll give you my opinion on that. Look, Greenwood, I have to say this, and I do have to prefix. Greenwood was alleged to have done stuff. Look, we all heard the tape. We all saw the pictures. We all saw the stuff, right? It was withdrawn. The alleged thing was withdrawn, and he's moved away. Like, the one thing on that I'll say on it is, look, good luck to him. I hope he's learned. I think that young men, people who do something wrong, they need to get a second chance. There were certain things, there were certain crimes, certain things. The alleged incident, for me, you could fall under that. But I hope he learns. I hope he's getting a second chance, and many people don't. And for me, personally, this is a personal thing, I would feel uncomfortable having him back at the club. I personally don't want him. It's not about talent. It's a personal thing. I wish him well in his career. He should, if he's been given an opportunity to have a second chance, use that opportunity for good, and be a better human being. But for me personally, and this club will never get him back. For me personally, I don't want him anywhere near this club. But I do respect your opinion. You not on the ball tonight, JB. You're missing comments. Yeah, sure. And Delo would be top of your list. 100%. Bart is a serious fan. Says hello. So Delo and Shaw would be top of my list. Who do you say is not good enough? I've just mentioned that. They can all go. What about Bruno Mendy? Look, I think Bruno had run its course, right? And what I mean by that is this. Bruno Fernandes, if we can get money for Bruno Fernandes, if somebody offers you £100 million for a 31-year-old player, why would you not take it? Bruno Fernandes, in my view, is not the be-all and the end-all. We have sold in the past. We've got rid of players like David Beckham, Roy Keane. People have left. Steve Bruce, Pallister, Schmeichel, and this club doesn't fall apart. I know people like Fernandes. You play Fernandes in a 10, and he can do some stuff, right? But for me, we need to move on as a club from Fernandes. I'm not saying that Fernandes hasn't been a good player. I'm not saying Fernandes hasn't been our best player for the last 5-6 years. I'm not suggesting that he's not. But what I think people need to realise is that I'm of a certain age, as many people are, who have seen far superior players. I see far superior players in the Premier League all of the time. It's not a witch hunt. For me, it's we need to transition as a club. We need to move on from a club. We need to change captains. Bruno is not a captain. He gets the club. He does. There's no doubt from me that he gets the club. But for me, he's not a captain. And sadly, the only way to remove the captaincy is for him to leave. And look, we need to move on. Bruno Fernandes is not getting any younger. This is why we need an Anderson. This is why we need a Stiller. This is why we need these sorts of players, because we need to plan. We need to succession plan for the future, and this is what we need to do. So look, I absolutely have no problem in people who want to keep Bruno Fernandes, but for me, my opinion on this is we need to move on or start to think about moving on. But as a serious fan says, do you see Manu going to the USA as part of Thomas Tuchel's plan? Does his failure to establish himself in the squad point to a failure in Carrington at a time when Hendo has made a place for himself? But as a serious fan, I think that's a fantastic question. Very intelligent, well thought out question or statement. This club has failed many people. You look at Elvira, who's gone to Madrid. You look at Højlund. We failed Højlund. Are we failing Manu? So my question back is this, right? Are we failing Manu this season? I think there is a fair debate to be had here that Bruno is playing in an 8, where that's Kobe's position, right? Amorim doesn't fancy Kobe Manu. There could be a conclusion, or there could be a fact that we may have to face here, right? Is Manu good enough? From what I've seen, yes, potentially. But we've brought in a coach, and whether we like it or not, I think that the coach and the squad is on the footballing side, is on the coaching side. Are we failing him? I think that's up for debate. The problem that we got, and this is, I think this is the probably main point, and the fact you're saying there that Hendo has got a place, you're right. Should Kobe Manu be in there? Of course he should be. Where I think the failure is this. Because we failed last season, the repercussions for us is we don't have enough games. The Grimsby game for Kobe, I think, was a watershed point for him, on the basis that Kobe should have been running that midfield. Kobe should have owned that midfield. I'm not saying that that's his fault, but he should have owned that midfield. And now the fact we don't have as many games means we can't play Kobe Manu as much. We could do, but Amorim doesn't fancy the player, right? I'm unsure. I'm not going to lie. I'm unsure. I think people are basing their opinion of Kobe Manu on the Kobe Manu that came through 2 years ago. They're basing it on the Kobe Manu who went to England, basing it on the Kobe Manu that was in the final, which we won. Kobe Manu played a chunk of games last season. Kobe Manu wasn't great last season. So we've got one season of amazingness. We've got one season of mediocre. I don't want to see him go. I don't want to see him go. There is potential there. I think this kid could be anything he wants to be. I think it is a failure. I think it'd be a failure on the club's part. I think it would be a failure on his part as well. What is it? And I think we're going to find out. So, and if he does leave and he becomes one of the best players in the world, then we can look back and go, this club failed him. But I think it's so difficult right now. Nick says there was a video of Greenwood that was deleted, but damage was done, so Sally's career is over. I agree. Ask the women's team if they want him, if Greenwood comes back. And Grace, right? I think Grace, and I don't mean this this is not, but Grace, I think that one of the things, Grace, would you be comfortable? Not to put you on a spot, and I think people need to respect this. Now, Grace, from your opinion, offering a different side to this, would you feel comfortable in having him back? Dino, legend of the chat, Bruno should have gone off something for 100 million. Great players come and go. That's just how football operates. Bruno is a moments player, and these moments don't happen. Scott JB, we didn't fail Højlund. He wasn't good enough. He didn't even hold the ball up. Interesting opinion, Grace. Amorim doesn't rate Kobe. It's simple, regardless of what we say. If the manager doesn't rate him, let him go. Knight says, yes, it's clear. Yes, clearly, failing Manu, he's a wonderful talent. He's not starting, maybe acceptable, but he literally refusing to take on at any point at all. Interesting. Yeah, we need Casemiro to take more pot shots. Look at his goal versus Porto in 2016. So, Mr. Freeze, so basically, we need to allow Casemiro to shoot. The problem with that, if we let Casemiro shoot, it means he has to be in the opposition box. Who's going to run back? Who's going to do the defensive work? Our pivot is like a sieve. Our pivot is like a bucket with a hole. Like, who's going to do that? Like, Casemiro, whilst I respect him this season, we still need to replace him. I won't take it because United is not all about money. Bruno is part of the reason why United is still standing. All academy players that are supposed to carry United are on their head. Look, Mandy, it's an interesting opinion that you've got. That's your opinion. I don't share it. I don't think we're still standing because of Bruno Fernandes at all. Fernandes, you're saying that we're still standing because of Bruno Fernandes. Where was Bruno Fernandes when we lost 7-0? Where was Bruno Fernandes when we had an opportunity to get to the final? He went hiding. Bruno Fernandes went hiding last season. For the majority of this season, I know he's been played out of position, and I would always give him credit for doing that. But the things that I expect him to do as a captain, he doesn't do. Against Spurs, right? There's a 50-50, and he goes in with a little toe instead of going in with an absolute smacking. He doesn't do it. But Bruno is the past. Bruno is the past. He's the present. He's not the future. There's a great myth around this club, Mandy, about our academy players. There's a myth. There's a myth that we bring through academy players that go into the first team year after year. Like the only times we've done it really are Busby Babes, where we had to, and then the class of '92. Not because we had to, but just because we were very, very fortunate. We've brought players through like Cleverly, like a Welbeck. We've brought these sorts of players through, but our academy players, whilst we have an academy player on the bench every single game, it's a myth. It's a myth that academy players for the last, 10, 15 years prop us up. We've always bought players. Have to base stuff on what have done for me lately, and Kobe hasn't stepped up, as well as the manager not rating him. Casemiro couldn't hit a barn door. All our academy players are nowhere to be found. Rashford, etc. He deserves more than what we're treating him. Look, Mandy. Look, again. This is a channel to give you your opinion and give you your time. If I say something back on your opinion, it's not because I'm disrespecting that opinion, right? It is it's just my view, right? Rashford, over time, I thought Rashford was going to be, an absolute, just a player that was going to be here forever. Going to be, Rashford for a time was a very special talent. I don't know what happened along the way. You say, Mandy, the way that we're treating Rashford. What about the way that he treated us? What about the way that he treated the club? The fact that he wasn't giving it, 100%. The guy was on a night out in Ireland when he was supposed to be training. He didn't come back because he was on the piss up. We sadly for some of these players, there was a time where these players don't respect the badge. You look at Sancho, a Rashford, a Garnacho, you look at what he did. As much as I think that we're letting players down, I think we've let players down in the way that we've let them do what they like. but now we've had to, if we let players do what they like, you weed out the good from the bad, right? If you let somebody do what they like and they're still committed, they still want to play football, and then if you let a person do what they like and they're late for training, they'd rather play their PlayStation, they'd rather be out, right? Those to me are the players that you want to weed them out quickly. The news is Kobe out on loan, believe it, in for 100 million. That's why De Ligt should be captain against Spurs. De Ligt stood up and said that I'd rather let Maguire take more shots than Casemiro. Grace says, I don't want MG back. His women might have forgive him, but you shouldn't put your hands on someone, even if it was the other way around. And Grace, and look, I think it's important to get everybody's perspective. I think that it's we live in a male-dominated. This is a male-dominated place. I think that I've got 3 girls. I've got a wife, so I have an opinion on it. And Grace, is nice to get the female perspective. I think it's important. Mr. Freeze says Greenwood has apologised. All people should be given a second chance. And Mr. Freeze, I don't disagree. I don't disagree. People that do much worse crimes apologise. Doesn't mean you should forgive them. Possibly. All I'm going to say on that, and again, it depends, Mr. Freeze, on where you stand. It doesn't reflect on you as a person because you've got a different opinion to me, and you've got a different opinion to Grace. But I know what I saw. I know what I heard. I have a different moral compass, or I've got a different mindset to some people. Doesn't mean I'm better than anybody else. But my moral compass and the way that I see life and the way that I treat people, just because you didn't break the law, in terms of you've got found out people do stuff all of the time and get away with different stuff. Greenwood, for me, I'm not comfortable. He's apologised, so he should, but there are certain alleged things that happened that you can't forget. Over time, maybe, if Greenwood then decided to, campaign against that sort of thing, then maybe he'd have a bit more respect. But there was Mr. Freeze, whatever people like. I've got to accept that people don't think the same way as me. But I also think on the flip side of that, people have to respect that other people don't think the same way as you. So there are going to be people who are not comfortable with him coming back, and that's just the way of the world. Nico Ruskin at Rangers is a good player. Belgium international, he's also matured. Mr. Freaks, I would probably disagree there. Has he matured? What, just because he's gone away, played football, hasn't he become a dad? Aaron says, why didn't we sign Victor Osimhen? Manny said, no, what I mean is that Rashford, I expected to be doing what Bruno did. That's why I respect. Look, Mandy, Rashford really disrespected this club, and with all he's done for him, but personal reasons, he's given flimsy excuses. Look, Mandy, I absolutely respect your opinion on whichever player. I've got no, agenda against players. I say what I see, and mate, I absolutely respect your opinion. Aaron says Mason Greenwood needs to come back. He's not in the women's squad. Look, Aaron, again, my friend. Just because I've got an opinion on it doesn't mean that doesn't mean that you can't have a different opinion. To me, the debate is going to rage on, right? Greenwood's not coming back. He's never coming back to this club. He just never will. I would say if he's going to go anywhere, he'll go to a Premier League club, a different one. If he does, good luck to him, because I guarantee you, he will not live this down. I doubt he'll be back in England. I doubt he will. Niche fan says Greenwood is an absolute wrong-un. Can't possibly think about letting him return. He's not coming in. He's not coming back. So Jack says, I have a criminal record. It doesn't affect my work. Don't see why your personal life has to do with your job. Agreed. I do agree. But I think that the problem is that you make a good point, and this is not a witch hunt against a young man who did alleged stuff, and in the eyes of the law is innocent. No problem with that. But the problem is that whether we like it or not, we all. The problem is that at the time the girlfriend allegedly put it out there, everybody saw, everybody heard. There are certain things in life that people just can't forgive and can't forget, and it will be tarred with a brush for the rest of his life. But whether that's fair or not, that's up to the court of public opinion. But the problem that he's got is that it is the sort of alleged thing that is just not acceptable in society, and there are people with daughters, there are people with wives, myself, I just hope for him. He's gone away. Look, he's been able to do his job. He does his job. He's been able to do his job. But the problem is when you're a star like that, playing for one of the biggest clubs in the entire world, you can't then, if you're Joe Bloggs on the street and that happens to you, and then you get away with it, look who's going to know? The problem is that it's not a good look. So, he's innocent in the eyes of the law. The public of the court of public opinion is different. And he's Jackie. At the end of the day, he's only got himself to blame. You can't blame people for having their opinions. He's only got himself to blame. Whatever happened, he's only got himself to blame. It's a bit like if you cheat on your husband or wife and you get caught and you apologise and people don't forget, well, you've only got yourself to blame. You shouldn't have done what you did, right? So he's only got himself to blame. I hope he can rebuild his life, his career. Good luck to the young man. But Niche fan says he didn't go down because the issue with the female team was that they said they would all leave. The criminal record does affect your job, but it just depends. If you do something that bad, it would be an easy guilty verdict and nothing happened. Yeah, but so Jackie, it wasn't like he went to court. It wasn't like he went to court and the jury come to the conclusion that the alleged thing was pulled, and the girl then that was impacted, who's now his girlfriend, I think, allegedly, this is all alleged, by the way, allegedly pulled away from it. So, look at the Welsh guy who was wrongly accused and spent years. Look, it's completely different. And I know who you're referring to. That's different. That's completely different. That's not the same as this. But look, there are miscarriages all of the time. Look, I could talk about this, right? I could talk about this. It's probably upset many of you because I've got a different opinion on this. I think men have a responsibility right now to educate other men. The statistics on this are fucking disgusting. We can't hide away from the statistics on certain things. And I think at times we do. But we can't ignore the fact, and I think it's up to men. I think it's up to men like me and us to educate young men on certain things in life that are acceptable than not. And yeah, but that's something else. We still have 100 million in, but yes, look, we're going to talk about someone else. Aaron, you're wrong. Aaron, I'm going to say you're wrong. It wasn't proven in a court of law. Aaron, just to be clear, nothing was brought into court. It was dismissed. So he didn't go to court. It wasn't proven in court. The CPS pulled it because the witness pulled their statement and there was no case to be had. So it wasn't proven in a court of law. It was dismissed. Exactly. On Greenwood, but the same girlfriend now is his wife with the baby. It's unfortunate that these judges him also doing something terrible. That is not in the open. Look, it's going to rumble on. Niche fan says it's not alleged. There's a literal no. Niche fan, it is alleged. Whether we like it or not, the same as those who support him like it or not, it is alleged. Everything's alleged. Anyway, segue into but look, it's an interesting debate on here. We don't hide away from things like that, but it's interesting. It's interesting. Segue into should the name. I know, but it is a very divisive topic. And look, we don't hide away. But so look, other things to get into that are more important than a player that now doesn't play for this club. A player that I'm going to be quite frank, a player that I don't give a fuck about. I don't care about him. He's gone. He can stay away. If that upsets many people, I don't really care. That's my opinion on it. He can go. So look, apparently, and the reports out, look, we do have £100 million to spend. It doesn't surprise me. Now, when we're talking about £100 million to spend, we're talking, 2 players, 50 million, 20 million. There is money to spend. Now, as Scott said earlier on in the chat, I think the next couple of games are going to be pivotal for Kobe Mainoo. And segue into like the £100 million. Will we spend the whole 100 million? Dino, I don't even know if we're going to spend a penny, mate. I am still of the opinion that that Gallagher is. I said I've nailed my balls to the mast on this one. I'm of the opinion, and look, I will happily be wrong on this. I think that Gallagher is going to be the only signing that we make. I don't want it to be true. Again, bodies. He would remind me of a Sabitzer signing, an Amrabat signing. I think that my bet would be we get one of our target signs between 70 and 80, and then grab Connor on loan. I like that. I do. I like that. I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind that at all. Adina says that's my concern. Niche fan said Balaba's coming, but not till this summer. Indicator confirmed it. Look, Niche fan. Indicator, I've referenced him a couple of times on here. As Scott says, Indicator chat a load of nonsense. Indicator, they are, if you look back over their posts, they are absolute. I wouldn't believe a word they say. They talk. I think they've got one thing right, but Indicator talk out of their backside. The only people that there's 3 people, there's 2 people that I would really believe is Ornstein, Fabrizio. If it comes out of their mouths, yeah. Is Xerxes going on loan in? Is Xerxes going on loan? Mandy, look, I think so. Shesko, it looks like he's not as in. The injury is not as bad, so it looks like Shesko is going to be back. I think we need to go and get a striker. So Guirassy, again, I can I'll tick that off of my list as well. So he's been mentioned again. 29 years old, plays for Dortmund. He'll be 30 next year. He's been linked to us again. He's a player that I think we should have got 18 months ago. 18 months ago, I can't remember who he played for. Was it Eintracht? I think he played for Frankfurt or somebody. We could have got him the January window for, I think it was 12.5, 15 million pounds. We should have got him. We didn't, and we're now being linked. Look, we're going to be linked to everybody, but there is talk of that link again. So Guirassy for me is not going to happen. He's on the thumbnail because look, we've been linked to him. I would have liked him. Look, if there's a possibility, that is the sort of striker that I would like to get. I think he's powerful. I think he's quick. He is a good striker. He's of that sort of age where, you know, you get him for 2-3. He'd be the striker. He'd be the sort of striker that Fergie would have bought. You know, for me, Tony, him, you know, somebody like that, somebody experienced coming in to help take the load off of a Šeško, why Šeško learns, I think would be a fantastic signing, but he'd be a pricey signing. You know, we could have got him for 15 million. Nobody took a punt on him. I think he's a great striker. So for Xerxes to go, I think we need to bring in a striker. I think Xerxes surplus to requirements. I do. I think Xerxes is a player that is going to go. He is going to go. It's just when he goes. So I think that we need a player in and Xerxes to leave. So I think those of you who are Xerxes fans, he may be here. The rhetoric coming out from the club is that he's not for sale. Manu is not for sale. But I think if an offer comes in, a valuable offer or an important offer, as Fabrizio would say, I think Xerxes will go. Does he go? I wouldn't say no. I wouldn't say no. Scott says, Baleba for 100 million. Look, Scott, I'd love it, mate. I'd love it to be true. Where are we? Dinner says, I wouldn't be surprised with just Connor coming in. Casemiro go yesterday. Oh my God. Wow. Connor Ben yesterday. Class. Get in. Look, I was pleased. I was pleased for Connor Ben. Casemiro goal was good. Look, Casemiro, I said at the top of the show, well done to Casemiro. You know, Cunha played as well. Look, I'm pleased with Casemiro. You know, a player coming towards the end of their career, you know, having a bit of a purple patch, I think it's brilliant. So and he took his goal well as well. Connor Ben as well. You know, I'm a boxing fan. You know, I'm glad for him. You know, I look. Boxing is, I think boxing is going through a transition. Boxing is not what it used to be. You know, the fact that AJ is fighting one of the Paul, what you call him, Paul bloody blah. What's his bloody name? Is Aaron Paul? It's a joke. The fact that AJ is going to entertain a YouTuber who fight bums, I think is, you know, I have got more transfer stuff right than indicators. Scott, you had my friend give me Steeler in Jan and bribe him with a fat sign bonus to lure him to Old Trafford. Carl Mark says, my uncle, yeah, you tried. My uncle, yeah. Carl, I can't read it out, Carl, but that's sort of, Scott says, Connor Ben is, yeah. And it is, Scott. Look, that fight was between two mediocre fighters. You know, look, it was in terms of a fight. Look, they're going to have a fight, but let's not pretend that they're world class. You know, that's the whole job of a promoter, is to promote fight. Right? Every fight is the next big fight, because that is their job, is to sell tickets and to make, you know, is basically to make these fights seem more appealing than they are. But ultimately, Conor Benn and Eubank, look, is not. But United have a policy of not getting older players, says Mandy. Look, you're right, my friend. You're right. They do. I think that policy is wrong. I think that policy, I agree with in terms of getting players at a particular age to bring them into the squad. But there are certain times where I think you need older players to come in to support the young players. But Mandy, you're right. Steal it on a cheeky bid for Nuno Mendes. Scott says, Ben, yeah, I agreed, Scott. I agree with you, mate. When I hear this, I thought it was April Fool again. You're going for Conor Gallagher. Is that a joke? I'm going for him. I think they will. I hope that something else happens, but I'm still of the opinion there'll be no value in the market, and Gallagher will be the one to come in. Look, I'll be stunned. I need some ambition from this club, and I hope that this club show ambition. If this club did a bold move like Manu out, a Baleba in, a Connor in as well, I would be like, okay, this is different, this is bold. I want this club to do something. Let's see. Ben was good, but Eubank is washed. He was awful. Made Ben look even better. Scott. Ben just loves his eggs. Scott clearly, mate. Yeah. If we're buying wing backs, a right one isn't the way to go. Go for DeMarc. So look, in terms of the wing backs, we're looking at Munoz for Crystal Palace. Look, he's openly said that United would be his dream move. I mean, his some of his stats, and I did write down some of these stats, right? So you got tackling, he's in the 97th percentile, 3.1 per 90 minutes. His interceptions, he's in the 78th percentile. His aerial duels that he wins, 90th percentile. His assisted goals in 92nd percentile. His non-penalty assists, 91st percentile. Shots, 83rd percentile for his position. Premier League proven. I believe he's got 1 or 2 years left on his deal. Brilliant. I'd take him all day long. Mendes, I agree. Kawaka says hi. Hello, my friend. For me, I would go for him. I think he's perfect. I think he'd be perfect. Livramento is actually on the cards as well. So Livramento is going to be offered a new deal, but he'll have 2 years left on his deal. He'll have 1 year left on his deal next season, or 2 years left on his deal. And if he doesn't sign a new contract, Newcastle will have to sell him. Livramento, look, I like him a lot. I do think whilst I want to sign and bring you through, I think in the meantime, I think we do need first team players. Look, I would love us to go and pick a gem out of the Brazilian league. I'd love us to go and pick some random, player out. But until that happens, I think we do need to go Premier League proven. And I do think these two players would be the ones for me. Or Mate as well from I think it's Brighton, is it? He would be one as well. I thought he tore us apart when we played them. So for me, he would also be the one that I would go for. Ben fights boots NS and gets battered. Average fighters. Yeah, I agree. Munoz is good, but is the right side our biggest concern right now? Steve Elsie says DeMarco. We're cool seeing 50 Cent. Was cool seeing 50 Cent, Elliot Anderson. I'm all up. Look, I think we need a versatile wing back. It's difficult. It's difficult. It's difficult. I think we need a wing back. It's difficult. It's difficult. I think there are some good options out there. I agree. Mendes. I like Mendes. I like Mendes a lot. Someone playing for PSG, I like him. We switch to play so often to the left, we have no threat from that side. I think both sides, to be honest with you, Mendes' quality. I really like Mendes, Dino. He's pacey as well. I really, really like Mendes. I think our left backs, I think both of them are a problem. I think both sides are. I think both sides are a problem. I right now, we had a chance to get him. We did, but he didn't want to come. I'm happy with Ahmad playing on that side. Up the Republic, such a good play, pace to burn. Getting Mendes would be too ambitious. I don't disagree with you. I think it would be. I'd be very surprised. It would be very ambitious. I think if we signed one of our midfield targets in the next window, I think would be very, very ambitious. How ambitious are we? Look, guys, this really is my question. Really is, how ambitious are we? We're a club that needs to be ambitious. And Dino, you're right, my friend. You're right. We need to be ambitious. We need to be brave. Ahmad is fine for now. The left is the big one. I feel DeMarco will be a gem. Agree, Kevin. I agree. I think Ahmad. On the right, and I think Mazraoui could do a job. For now, I think between them, I think they could do a job. I agree that the left-hand side is an issue. I think Dorgu is a work. I think Dorgu is young. Dorgu needs time. If we could, if we end up getting a DeMarco, and I agree with you, Kevin. Look, is Dorgu too young to be the main man? I don't think it's age. You get some players who are just brilliant players, young. I do agree that Dorgu is too young. You can't look. I would love to have a left back, 21 years old, who's going to be the next big thing for the next 10, 15 years. I do think you're right that Dorgu is too young. I wonder if he's good enough. That's my thing here. Dorgu is young, and I do agree with that. I do agree that Dorgu is too young. I think right now we need experience. Do you think they will address both positions? If not, which position will they strengthen first? I think midfield is first. I think left wing back. I saw Bruno in my FC manager mode and brought Valverde and Gavi in. How did you do? Well, we don't know if he's good enough yet, but take the pressure off him and give him a sheriff to lead. Kevin, agree, mate. Where I stand on it is that I'd love to see in our team, right? You've got first team players, whether they're all world class players or not, but they're all first team. They're all first teamers, right? And then sitting behind them, you've got those players who are on the verge or trying to fight the first teamers for a place. And then behind those, you've got a smattering of youth players, So, you want to have a Dorgu. Maybe Dorgu could be fighting for first, or maybe you've got maybe a slightly more experienced. So every position, you almost have 2 or 3 people fighting for that position, or you've got a young player knocking on that door. And I think Dorgu is a good example of that. And Nicarucci, I agree, Dorgu is good, but he's far too raw, still a bit reckless at times on the pitch, but certainly not afraid to go in. And yet, and again, Kevin's right as well. You're both right. Kevin is right. We don't know yet, and he does need pressure off of him. I think you're spot on. What you're talking about is balance, and it takes time to build up. We would get that, and that's it, Kevin. We do need balance in that side, and I think once you have that, but Kevin, my only comment on that, and it's not about what you said there, is that we've been doing this for 10 years. Well, we've been doing this for what, 12 years now, 13 years nearly. It just goes to show the money that we've wasted. And yes, we need to give time to Amorim, but the scary thing is, we've wasted all this money and we don't have balance in this team. But we should be an understudy right now, not first choice. Dino, agreed. I think you guys are spot on tonight. I think you're absolutely spot on. Yes, doing it the last 13 years. Let's see how the new accept. And look, this is why Ineos, Kevin, in my opinion, they need to be ambitious. They need to do something different. It can't be there's no value in the market again. We can't have a situation whereby another window comes around. Yes, so much money was wasted. Many successful players that we passed on. We need some experiences, Steve, on the flanks. It's no good having young, pacey players who can't cross. But I agree, Steve. At times, our players couldn't cross a road. You see, there's opportunity. Shesko. Shesko make those runs. Get the wing backs, getting that ball into the box. They don't always have to get it into the box, but at least try. I'm not talking about getting those wingers up there, crossing the ball 9 times out. Get the ball to the box more than they have been. They can cross a road. Dino says, go big or go home. Alvarez is one of the biggest. Alvarez, it's one of those players that could have been. We had a 12.5 million clause to bring him back. We decided we didn't want to bring him back. We decided that we were going to go Dorgu instead. My manager team is Lemens, Davis, De Ligt, Saliba, Mazraoui, Gavi, Valverde, Cunha, Vinny, and Bruno and Shesko. That's a cracking team. Top 5 striker in the world. Shesko, or bring in a top 5 striker. I also think as well. That look, if we're aiming for Champions League, right? You've got Sir Jim talking about this club should get Champions League football. Put that to one side for a second. Sorry, mate, I'm talking about the striker, not left back, that went to Barcelona. Yes. Agree on both fronts though. Alvarez, spot on, mate. I've always thought that. Not getting him after Ranić recommended him, and we just was like, nah. But again, both players, agreed, mate. Agreed. We should get Victor Osimhen. Yes, snap. Jinx. We should get Victor. Look, Cameron David. We can't get him, mate. Osimhen is going to be one of those players that is going to pass us by. The reason is not because I don't want him. I think Osimhen would be a fantastic player, right? We're not getting him, mate. It's just not going to happen. Financially, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. We should get Wesley Sneijder. We should get Wesley Sneijder. We were always linked to Wesley Sneijder. We were always linked to De Jong. Sorry, yeah. We were always linked to. There's another wing. There's another left back. We've been linked to so many players. That's in Kevin. That's in the Benfica guy, right? Yeah, we've been always linked to these players. Yeah, agreed. That's what people do. Osimhen, he's not going to happen. But interesting point though. Kevin, you've raised about the striker situation, right? You know, you've got channels and you've got, you know, Sir Jim saying that we'll get top 4, and many people. Steve says Milinkovic Savic, exactly. You know, if we get Champions League, right? You know, as much as I like Shesko and Hamzik, oh yeah. I mean, he was. I mean, Hamzik, oh yeah, he was a interesting player. Napoli player, wasn't he? With the big hair, right? We're gonna need a striker. We're gonna need a striker. You know, and when we're talking about like players who are need a guide, I think that Shesko needs a guide. I think Shesko needs somebody older to try to guide him through. And if we go Champions League, I think we're going to need, for a couple of years, I think we're going to need somebody like an Osimhen. I'm not saying that that's who we'll get. Exactly, Dino. Exactly. Exactly. You know, he needs Mateta. I really like him. Mateta, for me, I really like Mateta. I really do. I think he's a great. I don't know why somebody hasn't come in and snapped him up. I think he's a fantastic player. I think he's a very, very underrated player. He's one of those players who's just underrated. Ken McGee says, if we get Europe, Mateta can be the guy to help out. I agree with you. I bloody agree with you. I think Mateta is going to be one of those strikers that will get a move maybe next season to a bigger club. No disrespect to Palace. I think Palace are a fantastic club. He'll bang in goals and everyone will be saying, we should have signed him. Why didn't we sign him? I think he's going to be a fantastic player. Kama says, at this point, we need players that can get the job done. Look, if we want Champions League, we're not going to get Champions League with just this set of players. We're just not going to do it. So I think you're right. I think we do need players to get the job done. I would have taken Dembala or Rodriguez. Dembala. Dembala. Yeah. I don't know. I think he would have been. I think he would have been another flop. I do. I think he'd been another flop. He would have made Arsenal very close to winners. The league. I feel. I think he would. I'm sorry. I think he would have been. I think he would have been a flop. It's where the Sky Network needs to be earning their money. I think Dembala would have been a flop. I do. I think he's one of those players that peaked, was a good player, but I think that I think he would have flopped. Mateta would have. Kevin, I think if they'd have got Mateta instead of Gyökeres, I think that would have been better. I'm not saying that Gyökeres is a bad player. I think Mateta would have been 40 million. Dembala needed too much time on the ball. Yeah, Pato, the Messi that never was. Pato, Jesus Christ! Now you're bringing him in, because didn't Pato play for? Didn't he play for like Chelsea or West Ham or somebody? Didn't Pato come over for a bit? Anyone ever hold the opinion that Ferguson left us in bad shape? Kevin, right? This is my opinion on Fergie on that whole thing, right? Fergie held this team together with string and sellotape, right? I don't think it was necessarily his fault that he couldn't sign the players that he did, right? He had to make do. I'm of a conspiracy theory that Fergie brought in Moyes because he didn't want somebody to come in and ruin the legacy that he made. I'm not saying he did it on purpose. I'm just saying that why would you go for David Moyes? I always have this opinion that, look, whilst I'll always respect the manager, legend of this club, I think he almost wanted to leave. And imagine if Pep came in, right? Or imagine if Klopp came in, right? I think the reason he went for Muñoz was because he didn't want to taint the legacy that he had. I don't think. Imagine if somebody had come in and won the league the very next season. So I've got a conspiracy theory, but I don't think he did it on purpose. I just think his hands were tied. Didn't Rodriguez end up at Everton at one point? He did. AC Milan, Pato. But yeah, but I'm sure Pato ended up for a season in England. I'm sure he did. I agree, but do you think Van Persie was the vanity signing rather than Lewandowski, who would have seen us good for a decade? I think the Van Persie signing was he wanted to win the league. I think Fergie knew he was going to retire, and I think Van Persie was about winning the league. Now, all I'm going to say on the Van Persie thing is genius, on the basis that how did he know the Van Persie signing was going to win him the league? How would he have known that bringing Van Persie in was going to have that much of an impact on the team? It was. I think Van Persie signing was about him winning the league. I think he already knew he was going to leave, and I do agree. I think Van Persie was the signing that was a bit like, look, I'm going to win the league, and then I'm going. So I think that's what it was. Dina says, how do you think Moyes would do now? I think Moyes would. I actually think Moyes with these, well, not these set of players. I think more. I just think it would be a mid-table team. I don't see Moyes doing anything with these set of players. I just don't think any manager in world football can do anything with this set of players. I think we've accumulated a set of players from different eras of managers. And I just don't think that if you had a blank canvas, right, of players, let's just say you had a blank canvas and you said to Van Gaal, here's a blank canvas, go and buy 15 players. You give it to Jose, 15 players, go and have a blank canvas. It's so difficult. It's so difficult to know how good a manager is in some respects when he doesn't have his players, right? David Moyes. The problem with Muñoz, and this was the biggest thing with Moisey, right, was that imagine you're coming in as the coach to tell these players what to do. You've come into a team where Giggsy, Rio, Vidic, I think Cleverley was still there, Van Persie was there, telling these players how to win a league when you don't know, when you've never won a league. Like, how can you come and tell players how to win stuff when you've never won something until now? But like, how can you go in and tell these players how to win and how to train when you've never won something in your life? That's what the problem was. You needed an Ancelotti. You needed a winner to come into this club and go, look, I've not won stuff with you, but I've won stuff. Like, you needed somebody to come in here with instant respect as a coach. And we did that with David Moyes. So I think he was always going to fail. Klopp turned us down. Apparently, Jose went back to Chelsea. Pep couldn't understand if he was being offered a job as well. Yeah, so Klopp turned us down, apparently, Kevin, because basically, this has come out from Klopp himself. Klopp turned us down because basically we promised to buy him X, Y, and Z players. What Klopp wanted to hear was, like, this is our plan for the future. This is our plan for the club. He was promised, all these big players, whereas what he wanted to hear was the project wasn't the one that, like, he was after. He wanted to come in, build a team, build a philosophy where it's not just bringing in stars. Pato played for Chelsea. Yep. Big up JB, Danny B, legend. He wanted to win the league, so brought him for his legacy and not for the future. I agree. He knew because they lost on goal difference that year, if I'm correct. Muñoz is middle of the road. HJB, legendary. HJB, tulip play. Our budget is Jan's about 110 to 130. OB, mate, look, I look, Agent OB, Agent Scott. Let's hope so. Kevin said, what you have just said about these players suggests we need to give Amorim time to clear the canvas and get his own look on the team. I agree, Kevin. I've been banging this drum. If people go back, right? People go back. Look, what I've said about Amorim and these players, it's all out there. I can't hide from anything I say. I remember everything that I've said. I've supported this manager since the start. Even when I was saying that these are not his players, I've been getting pelters. The Grimsby game was the pinnacle. I still said, look, I still support this manager. I'm of that opinion. I support him. He needs time. He needs time to build this team. He absolutely needs time to build this team. And I support it. I do support it. Munoz doesn't move the needle, says Tulip. Nick said Fergie left on a high, but I think he saw the decline. Paul Moyes got dealt a bad hand by taking over. Klopp could have changed the course if we were lucky enough to get him. Yeah, I think Moyes, look, if you're David Moyes, you're not going to turn it down, are you? I mean, Moyes was never going to succeed. You know, I've always had this opinion of Moyes. How can you tell a room full of maybe aging stars, and that's fine. We know with hindsight as well now, he was promised the world and got Mata and Fellaini when he thought he was getting Tony Cruz, Fabregas, at one point Bale as well. He got sold down the river. He was never going to succeed. Jose was the right man to take over. He would have sprinkled a couple of players on a bunch of winners. More news on Rúben Neves. His contract ends summer 2026. He wants to return to the Prem. A peak contract agreement could take place in Jan. Interesting club. Spurs, United, Al Ahly wants to keep him. He is the type of player that I think would be a very, very good squad player. I think he would be. We should have brought Neves when Ronaldo came back. Neves, I like him. I do like him. I think he'd be a good, versatile squad player. I do. I like him a lot. Like I said before, Muñoz highly rates Rúben Neves, even though he's out of their profile. Let's see what happens. And again, I think that what they'll come to learn is that if you look at Casemiro, he's an all-rounder, and Kevin, right? I think that is what we need, mate. Kevin, you're spot on. I think we need a couple of horrible players in this team. We need a couple of horrible, spiteful players. We need that Spurs game with Bruno Fernandes. Can't remember the young lad's name. And look, I don't want to see players hurt, but I want to see somebody stick a boot in. You let them know that they're there. You leave a little bit on them, and you let them know, because then the next time, maybe not like a Roy Keane, because Keano, what was, but again, right? I'm not against that. You need somebody to, and I'm not talking about because you can't tackle these days. I'm talking about if that you're going to get a crunching tackle, you're going to think twice, and we need players like that. Don't underestimate these all-round players. They're never going to be they're never going to be the next big thing, and Dino, that's it. That is it exactly. You want somebody, and obviously I got told off about this, right? And yes, I know it's not war, but I want somebody you can go into battle with, right? You want somebody to go into battle with, that if you're going to get into a ruck with somebody, you want them first. You want them up first. Who's going to have your back? Remember that Roy Keane and Vieira, when they're standing there, and Keane says to one of them, because they were having a go at Neville, and basically saying, look, if you have a go at him, like, then me as well. And Roy Keane was not the tallest. I think Roy Keane was like 5'9" or 10. Like he wasn't the biggest, but he was the biggest in terms of aura. You knew you bloody knew that when he was playing, you sort of like had his back. And then even the likes of Beckham, Scholes, they all fought for each other, and then when you and even back when you had like Mark Hughes, the Roy Keane karate kick takes no nonsense. Exactly. JB Scouts after Oscar Spitzen, I can't even pronounce that name. What a talent, can't miss out on that. Similar to Noosa, just 21 and the other is 18. Right back would want 60 million for Noosa. I'd rather Oscar Spitten. I've checked him out actually. Wise United fan says today's my 62nd birthday, legends. Wise United fan, happy birthday. Legend, 62nd birthday, mate. Absolute quality, mate. Absolute legend. Like massive like happy birthday. I hope you've had a fantastic day. Thank you for being on here, mate. Appreciate it. Yeah, happy birthday, mate. Yeah, 62nd birthday. I mean, that is, I think when you get past 40, everything is a massive birthday, right? And when you get to 60, 60s, I think are absolute, special years. Nikuchi says, and Stam to back him up. Oh, I mean, yeah, Stam. A few years older than JB. Yes. I mean, Scott. I mean, yeah. I'm only a couple of years away from that. Oh, I love it, Scott. Fergie's stare would be enough to scare anyone, and then the boot thrown at you. If you talk back, just ask Bex. Just ask Bex when he comes out with a scar on his eyebrow because he looked at the coach in a wrong way. Stiller and Echelon both rated as Tony Cruz regens. I feel 72 instead. Mate, I think I could talk about this all day. I was actually talking to my dad today, and I'm just like, I'm 42 years old now, and like at times I like as much as I go to the gym, as much as I try and stay fit, at times, I mean, I feel, yeah, Jesus. I mean, yeah, I feel your pain, but being a man of senior years to me, my friend, I absolutely respect that, my friend. OB says there's plenty of talent out there. Next summer will be exciting. I just hope, OB, that we can do it, mate. I just hope that we can. David says, yo, JB. David, hello, my friend. I was expecting that Fergie and Bex got in a scuffle, not to hear boot got launched. I mean, as much as he lightly kicked it, as much as I'd love to see that, I think Beckham would have probably smacked him around, mate. Yeah, I do think it was a boot. Yeah, I mean, bend it like Fergie. I mean, I don't think Fergie could have, if he tried that like 1,000 times. Yeah, just unfortunate. And look, Beckham got sold. Beckham got sold. Bruno cooking today for Portugal. That's what happens when you play him. That's what happens when you play him in a number 10. I think some of these players do prefer to go away with their national teams. Dinner says drop kick from Bex. Can you imagine Bex? I mean, I think Beckham. When we're talking about Beckham, right, and then we're talking about players who are resilient in this that we've had, right? I mean, that World Cup, I remember watching that World Cup Jesus. OB, yeah, lots of Anderson talk from, but he will be cheaper in the summer due to contract clauses. I can't see Forest letting him go halfway through a season. Agreed. I mean, we did a show on that. Basically, there's clauses of sort of all sorts in there. So yeah, it's not going to be done. It's not going to be done. It's not going to be done next month or the month after. Anderson, Baleba for me. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think it's getting done. I think they're going to want 115 million, and I'm sorry, but I don't think he's worth that right now. Hendo played well in net for England. Good day for the England team. 8 games, 22 goals, none conceded. Kane strikes again. Look, England. Let's see what they can do. I mean, I'm not English, so look. As much as I will cheer them on in the World Cup, and yeah. I'm Welsh, so but again, I do keep an eye on the World Cup. International football, it's not for me, but Obi says Baleba the same thing. Yeah, Niku says Baleba is far too overpriced. And again, I'm gonna go in a second, but I'm gonna nail my balls, as I keep saying, to the wall. I think that so Gallagher is going to be the one. I think he comes in on loan. I do. I think that is the one that we go for. I do. Our future is Anderson. I hope so. Baleba, Anderson will not happen until in Jan in the summer. Dino, I agree. Baleba is a massive no from me because he's down tools for Brighton instead of showing us why he's valued at 100. We don't want players like that if we get him and Madrid comes in. I don't know, OB, about him. I still like him. I'd still take him, but where I can see the point is that we need players whose mindset is different. So I still like him. I do, but not for that sort of money. Not for me. Not for that sort of money. I like him. I'd still try to get him, but not at that price. Nick Roos says, for the price of Baleba, we could possibly get 2 midfield. Look, my ideal 2 would be Anderson, Stiller, Neves as well. Get him in. Look, if we could get 3 in, it'd be fantastic. Yeah, for me, Anderson with those clauses as well. If you could get him for around 65 to 70 million, brilliant. Stiller as well. It would be fantastic. And that is where I think I would go. I can see Gallagher, maybe Steeler or Hackney, then Summer Anderson. I think so. Gallagher for me, as I've said, I think he's going to be the one that comes in. I do. Steeler for me, look, if we can get him at the release clause price all day long. But Stuttgart at any point can give him 2 million quid, and there's nothing that he can do. Hackney would be an interesting one as well. Yeah, I think, yeah, I do. So Gallagher for me, I could talk about every single, stream, and but I do think that Gallagher's going to be the one. Scott says if we have 120, then 50 for Steele and 70 for Anderson or Wharton. The problem with Anderson right now, for me, Scott, Forest are going to want 100 million. I don't think United are going to pay 100 million now when you can get him in the summer for 60 to 70. However, in the summer, City are going to be there, Liverpool are going to be there, Arsenal might be there as well. Do you steal a March now and pay a premium for a player to get him now rather than get into a bidding war? And Anderson will want 100 million in Jan. Some will get him for half that. We aren't getting our CMs in the next window, says Kevin. Marinakis won't let him go for less than 100 million. And I think, Dino, look, I think this is, I don't think we'll get him. I just don't think so. But do we try to steal a March? I don't think we're ambitious enough as a club to do that. I think we sign. I think it's going to be boring. I think Manu stays. I think Xerxes stay. And I think Conor Gallagher comes in. Nick Carucci said, just dare to dream that United somehow land Valverde. His price rules us out from getting him. And I think, let's see. Let's see. Well, so guys, I'm going to go. Amazing to be back. I do miss doing these shows. I do. I really do. I saw something on the McTominay return today. It's going to go quite, I think it's rubbish, not sure. Can't wait for Saturday. Coventry versus West Brom, says Steve. What's JB's final thought? Look, my final thought is this. I think, look, are we going to be ambitious? We're going to see what Ineos are about. We're going to see, again, what Ineos are about. The window will prove to me. I don't mind if we don't get our summer targets. I can absolutely agree in some respects. Nick Carucci, mate, you are walking a fine line with that comment, mate. You are walking a fine line. Walking a fine line, my friend. Look, we're going to see if the ambition is there. I'm of the opinion that it's going to be no value in the market again. I wouldn't mind if there was a Neves that came in. I wouldn't mind if we got 2 loans. I want to see some sort of ambition. OJB's triggered. Oh, I can't. My eyes twitching. Yeah. So we're going to see that. Obi says, Ineos in my bad books, they turned Ken Eric's help down. That's disrespect. Oh, well, Eric's come out. Eric's come out and slated him, hasn't he? Eric Cantona's come out and slated Sir Jim. So in Cantona we trust. In Cantona we trust. Look, guys, I'll be back tomorrow. Legends of the chat. I've missed this as much as I like going away with Mrs. Yeah, I know he is. As much as I like being away, I do miss this, guys. You guys are legends of the chat. You've built this community with me. We just get bigger and bigger and bigger, and you guys are legends. So look, thank you for being here, guys. Guys, just legends. Y says typical Bruno gets a hat trick for Portugal, but he can't score for United. It is ironic, in the words of Alanis Morissette. It is ironic, but Portugal play him in his right position. Last question: how is the tripod? Dino, the tripod is all good, mate. It's all good. The tripod is all good, mate. That's because he plays at 10 for Portugal. What? The tripod plays for number 10 at Portugal. Don't think he does, mate. Yeah, the tripod is all good. Happy days. Happy days. So look, guys, legends of the chat. I will be back tomorrow during the day, and then I'll be back tomorrow night as well. Normal will resume tomorrow. Yeah, legends of the chat, guys. It does just hang around, mate. That's what happens. It does just hang around. Sorry, look, Wise fan, mate. It's your birthday. You should have more important things to do than listen to me. But I am pleased that you're here. At least it has a leg to stand on. It's true. It's all true. I'm happy for people to believe that. So that's what one thing is got crutches. Now this is why I walk with a limp. This is why I can run pretty fast. It's like having 3 legs. So now I've got. It's all good. Guys, legends of the chat. I will be back tomorrow. Have a good rest of your afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. Absolute bloody legends. I keep standing on it. Oh, I didn't think at your age didn't think at that age you would come. You could come wise. Mate, I've never been wise a day in my life. But look, guys, legends. I'm going to bed. Work in the morning, but I'll be back in the afternoon, back in the evening time for another jam-packed random show. As we do, guys, legends. Thank you so much for being here, guys. Legendary. I'll be back tomorrow. I'm going, Dino. I'm going. Legends of the chat. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good rest of your morning, evening, afternoon. Take care.